Good morning, Cincinnati, and welcome into another winning episode of the Bearcat Brunch, brought to you as always by Royal Links Golf Tours. Jeff, I don't know how much of a golfer you are. Have you ever wanted to go to England, Scotland, Ireland to play
It
some golf?
that is a bucket list item for me. I love golf. Since I've had kids, I haven't been able to golf quite as much, but I love getting out there and playing golf whenever I can.
Well, happenstance has it that if you ever do get the chance to go, our great sponsor, Royal Links Golf Tour, two former Bearcats, Jeff Bartholomew and former quarterback Hayden Moore, have teamed up to start this company that sets up some premier golf trips to the British Isles, Carnoustie, St. Andrews, North Berwick, you name it. The guys at Royal Links Golf Tours have everything you need for your trip abroad. Not just the golf. You can get some whiskey tours, some whiskey tastings, castle tours, all the great things that would make a perfect trip, whether it's just a couple of buddies or a big group that wants to go over there. You know, if it is on your bucket list, like it is for Jeff and for myself, give Jeff or Hayden a call, 770-331-1525. You can also find him at royallinksgolftours.com. And big news right off the top of the show, Hayden Moore will be joining us after the homecoming game on the Bearcat Brunch to break down kind of, I guess that would be the first half of the season, week 6, or game 6, I should say, after South Florida, October 9th, I believe is that Sunday. But so excited for that. He's going to be in town for the game and said he'd be happy to jump on with us Sunday morning. So everybody can look forward to that. But good morning to Jason. Good morning, everybody. And good morning to another Bearcats win, 45-24 over the Indiana Hoosiers. Explosive first half, especially second quarter. Things grinded to a halt in the second half, but the Bearcats were impressive for 30 minutes, and it was plenty to get the job done. So as we do every episode, what is your big takeaway from the Bearcats win?
If they ever play a full game, I don't think I think they go up against just about anybody, because at this point they've played a bunch of second halves and now a first half. So maybe let's play a whole game, a nice whole clean game.
It would be cool. I think outside of your like elite teams, I think this is what a lot of teams do, even a lot of good teams. You know, you have a great half, a poor half, you have intermittent fits and starts here and there. But yes, it was definitely a quite a disparity in performance, being that, Ben Bryant was 17 for 21 for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns in the first half. And then they ended up being, I think, 1 for 9 on third down in the second half, and just really couldn't get anything going offensively. And we've already got some questions coming in, so appreciate that. And we'll get to all these. But, Justin asked, how concerned should we be with the running game moving forward? Jason mentions that IU sold out against the run. And we will get to both of those. But I kind of want to start defensively. And I don't know how he keeps doing it. Every week we talk about him. Every week he does something better. But, I mean, Ivan Pace, man, 15 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 4.5 tackles for loss, 3 QB hits. He's just unbelievable.
I saw somebody tweet out, I don't know, it was probably around halftime-ish or so. It was like, how many tackles does Ivan Pace have right now? And I just responded, all of them. Because it seems like if it's not he had 15 tackles, 7 of them solo. What'd you say, 2.5 sacks and 4.5 tackles for loss?
Yeah.
And was credited with 3 quarterback hurries. And I want to say that's probably low. I think that he was always in the backfield again. I saw somebody else. There was a conversation going on about is he an NFL type talent? And somebody was like, well, he's way too small to go to the NFL and be a linebacker. I mean, the kid's been he said it himself. He's always been undersized and small, and he's gotten the job done. So
Yeah, and not everything has to be. I know we fall into this. I don't know what it is. Just not everything has to be like how does the guy translate to the NFL? Like
right,
I don't really care about that right now. I'm just enjoying just how active he is, how relentless I mean,
the
his
motor.
sacks were chase down sacks. I mean, it wasn't like he was unblocked and came right up the middle and the quarterback couldn't do anything. I mean, these were relentless get off blocks, chase down the quarterback type plays. And he has just been a revelation. Chad and I talked this week. Like we thought he'd be good. We thought he'd be real good. We thought he might be the best player on the defense. But I mean, to do this game in and game out now, that when every team now knows, like, hey, he's a problem. We have to account for him. We have to do something about him. And for him to do what he did yesterday was just outstanding.
Yeah. And he's got, I think I forget which BCJ show it was on. They were talking about like how many years left he's got, and I think Chad said he has only accounted for 2 years at this point of his eligibility between how he played, what went on in Miami to now. So I guess he potentially has 2 years plus a COVID year left, or this year another year and a COVID year.
Yeah, I think I get confused on that stuff all the time, but I think he can have 2 years after this.
So I don't know that. I mean, he's probably going to join if he keeps up what he's doing now, he will join the Bearcats that quote unquote leave early, leave time on the table, at least to go to the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, yes, he is undersized, but I mean, when you make plays, it's hard to deny it. But
he's always moving around, and he's in when he's in the like pre-snap stuff. You see him; he's up talking to each of the defensive linemen, letting them know like what's happening. He's running around. He's kind of he's directing the traffic there, and then getting it done post snap as well.
Oh yeah, I mean he's not just going on his own and making plays. I mean he's getting everybody lined up. I mean it's just, and defense was up against 102 scrimmage plays, which is just a ton. 3.87 yards per play, 5 sacks, 12 tackles for loss, 12 QB hits. Like Connor Bazelak is feeling it today. Like they could not block, not just him. I mean, I'm going to get to it. Like I'm really impressed with 3 guys stood out yesterday, but their progression has been ascending is Dante Corleone, Eric Phillips, and Justin Watley. Like they are all really coming on as guys that just new guy, either a new guy that hasn't played or a new guy that's role is getting larger, whether it's because Malik Van is out. But all 3 of those guys made plays in the backfield yesterday. Obviously, Eric Phillips had the strip sack fumble at the end of the first half, had another sack late in the game. Dante Corleone is mauling dudes. And if you're going to tell me you got Jawan Briggs and him as your 2 main interior guys, like good luck.
Dante Corleone,
good luck getting anything going in the run game. Good luck blocking those 2 guys.
At his size, Dante Corleone looks like he was shot out of a cannon on several plays. And then like I remember there was he got in the backfield. I don't know if it was a sack or just if he just hit the quarterback. But the camera zoomed in on his face, and like I was legitimately fearing for my life sitting in my basement watching the look on his face after he had the hit. That dude is going to be, I mean, he's already a problem, and he's going to continue to be even more of a problem.
I've been probably most impressed with his pressure ability. Like he's using brute force strength to do it, but like he is rocking dudes back quick. I know there was a 4th down late in the game where he just blew up the center, and Bazelak, I mean, didn't even have time to do anything. He was in his lap, and he just threw it. He threw it down the field, but well out of bounds. And it was just like, I mean, that's like less than 2 seconds, and he is already back there. It's like nobody's even blocking him. So, hat tip, big time hat tip to the defensive line. The way that they've played the last 2 weeks, especially stopping the run. I mean, their running backs had 108 yards on 31 carries, which is 3.48 yards a carry, but that included 2 runs of 47 and 21. So you can't take them out, but you're talking about 29 carries for 50 yards, 45 yards, on running backs, not counting sack yards or anything. And it was something we talked about Wednesday that I didn't understand their offense. That it came to fruition again. Like Bazelak was 4.17 yards per drop back. So how are you yet completed less than 50% of his passes? Yeah. It's just a hard thing to understand how you don't push the ball down the field and are inaccurate. I think losing DJ Matthews hurt them. They really had nothing on the outside speed-wise. That's the one thing that I noticed, and I don't know if you noticed it. Like, UC speed offensively and defensively overwhelmed them.
And that's not something like so we brought that up back in the Arkansas game as far as like UC's outside speed wide receiver wise, right? Like they were cooking those DBs in that game. They were just some overthrows. And early in this game, you didn't really have so many overthrows. You had balls right on the money.
Oh yeah.
And so to have a team like UC that is in a not Power 5 conference, I know we're going to the Big 12, whatever, but to have a team like that show up and just outclass a Big 10 team, and I know it's Indiana, but they were 3-0, and I know we also said last week that not all 3-0s are made the same. Yeah.
Get your kids under control, Jeff. But yeah, so, and appreciate all the comments in the chat. Believe me, I will get to all those. We will condense all those. We will talk about offense here in a little bit. But I thought, losing Arquan was a big blow. He seems like he might be okay. I mean, he stayed in uniform all game on the sideline. We'll see how that progresses. Justin Harris, he just struggled. He was just too grabby. Like, I know I was guilty of it in the stands. Like, it always cracks me up that, you have a full-on collision sport, and yet some of the penalties they call, I'm not going to get into it really. I mean, like, some of them were bad, some of them were fine, whatever. Like, the one in the end zone, he grabbed him.
Oh, he pulled his jersey about 5 feet off of him.
He was too grabby, too much hands, and I'm sure that's what they're not taught to grab per se, but like they're a physical defense. They're in your face, man-to-man defense. You got to use your hands, and you just hope that you don't grab or they don't see it. And it's just the way that it goes. He just looked like he was just a little out of sorts, but it was good, good to get him some time, just because, like, especially like next week, Tulsa, you're going to see it. I feel like this was actually turned out to be like a good test, because the pace is, I don't know if the scheme is necessarily similar. Like, I think Tulsa likes to stretch the field a little bit more. I haven't dug into them at all, honestly, but the pace is going to be probably similar. They're going to be a throw it team. So it was good to get that kind of test initially before next week. And I thought they handled the pace well for the most part. They did get burned on the one touchdown to the running back on the sideline, just
the 47-yard one.
Yeah, Indiana went fast. Well, I mean the pass to Josh Henderson, where they were going fast, and just kind of got UC out of sorts there and couldn't get the coverage over to him. But other than that, I thought they handled their tempo pretty well.
Yeah, and it was moving very fast. There were a couple times where it got them, like I think it was the 47-yard run. Was it Thomas got stuck inside and left the entire
inside too much, and the Shivers bounced it outside.
Left the whole boundary of it. And they said that was Shivers' like longest run of his career, and that kind of thing. So, but I mean, there wasn't a lot to be like upset with. You had some young guys in there, and obviously this is Eric Phillips' first second start since Malik's injury.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing very well. And then you had the young guys that had to kind of fill in with Arquan not being in, and to get the actual game speed, like not garbage time at the end of the game kind of experience, will I think pay off in the long run.
For sure. It was I think they probably don't love that they gave up almost 50% on third down, but they did hold them to 0 for 4 on fourth down. So
Yeah.
But there's always going to be little things contain on that run. The second half did take way too long because Indiana throws the ball 9,000 times a game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean their pace sometimes can bite them in the ass, because when they don't they aren't completing passes, you're going fast, but you're not actually using any game clock, and your defense is right back on the field. Now UC couldn't convert because they had their own struggles offensively in the third quarter, especially. But I think all in all, you take a lot of good from what the defense did. I think first and foremost is that these guys that we talked in the offseason about how you're going to replace Amijah Sanders. We don't have a true speed guy on the edge. Well, it seems like they're replacing that element a little bit with like what Deshaun Pace does, and then they're getting, I guess, maybe better than we expected. I can't say better than they expected, but to me at least, guys like Phillips, guys like Watley, guys like Potter are giving them more pass rush, and it's not necessarily equating to sacks for those guys, but like we talked about earlier, 12 quarterback hits, a lot of pressure, obviously, where he's not getting hit, on 60 something dropbacks, 63 attempts, I want to say, where he actually threw the ball, and then all the other sacks and hurries and throwaways and everything. Mm-hmm. They created a lot of chaos around the line of scrimmage and in the backfield. So I think that's a really good thing moving forward.
I mean, I don't know that there's really much more to talk about on the defense as far as what they were able to accomplish yesterday, which was more than enough to put Indiana in a bad spot and give their offense a chance to kind of stretch the game out early, which helped them going into the second half, which I have a thought about it from something I heard in Luke Fickell's press conference.
Well, and we can go ahead and kick it over to yes, hearing that is Elkhorn 28. I love this because I feel the same way. When I see the media clock, a part of me dies. They now have those big clocks on the field. And yes, when it's another timeout and you just see like 3 minutes and 30 seconds on there, you're just like, my God, this is unbelievable that this is something that keeps happening constantly. Like every 3 and out, both teams were terrible in the second half, and there's just a 3 and out, 3.5 minute timeout, 3 and out, 2.5 minute time. I'm like, we got to get the commercial load in the entire second half.
Why can't we just charge more for commercials and have less timeout time? Just charge them more.
Less timeout.
It's the same 8 people getting all the commercial slots anyway. Just charge them more. So stupid.
but yeah, so we will it is nice that when you win by 21, and you will obviously have things to talk about offensively, but like our complaint today is about TV timeouts. Right. So it could be a lot worse. But we'll flip it over to the offense now. Obviously, the talking point coming out is going to be on the lack of run game, because the pass blocking was fine. They gave Ben, especially in the first half, plenty of time. 2 sacks on record. 1, I think, is definitely on him, just holding the ball a little too long, trying to make something happen. But we've talked about that, all year. Like, this is an aggressive offense, so I think you're going to get some sacks at times because he's waiting back there to try to make a play.
Yeah.
I think the first thing that jumped out to me in watching the game, and then also I did rewatch it this morning, was that, and this might be what you were going to allude to about what Coach Fickell said, was that it felt like the play calling, they let the 38-10 score maybe dictate a little too much of the play calling. And while it wasn't conservative in the sense of like just run, punt, it felt like even the passing formations and routes and everything were very like, it was a lot of slants. It was a lot of, yeah. And this offense, obviously, first half today, second half against Arkansas, parts of the Miami, like this offense is at its best when it is ultra aggressive.
Yes.
And I know we want to be a offensive and defensive line driven team, but like the offense is best throwing the ball. And if that means you use the run game to complement that, then I think we need to just lean into that. And you can still be aggressive. You're not trying to run it up, but like if guys are open, then they're open, and that's not your problem as a UC. Like,
yeah,
chuck it, man. Like
this game, like I feel like, and so this is what I wanted to get. Like we can kind of break down the first half in a minute. But in Luke's press conference afterwards, he made this comment like 2 or 3 times in the middle of his answer to what was going on in the second half. And he said like we got to work on with like a head coach maybe putting handcuffs on some guys in the in that situation. So I don't know if it was one of those things where Luke and Gino kind of talked about it, and he's like, look, when we go out here, like, let's not keep just throwing 75-yard go routes and run the score up kind of thing. And so I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what the conversation was, but just inferring from his comment, like a head coach doesn't need to put some handcuffs on some guys. Maybe I need to take the handcuffs off of some of them. I just thought maybe, I don't know if it was his, like, because obviously he's not a guy that's going to go out there and put up 77 points on an FCS opponent or something. Like,
right.
He's just going to go out and win the game. He wants to win the game and move on. But he may have put them in maybe a little bit of a fear, like, a couple mistakes here, and this game might flip back the other way, even though you're 38-10 at half.
Right. I think I imagine it's a hard mental play to make, because we're up 38-10. Mm-hmm. They haven't been able to stop us, especially throwing the ball. Let's call some quote-unquote more conservative plays that will run more clock, but let's not just, line up with 2 tight ends and run the –
right.
I don't think that works in college. I don't think that works against an offense that is going to play the way that Indiana is going to play. Like, you still need to drive the ball. You still need to run your stuff, because – now, they weren't successful because I don't think they're very good, and UC does have a good defense. But, like, we gave them the ball plenty of times to where they could have very easily, if they were better and UC was worse, come back. Because, I broke it down from the standpoint of the main drives in the second half. You have Ben's interception, which I think if he would tell you there was just too much velocity on the throw.
Yeah, and it was just a little bit high.
It was a little high, and Lenny was open. He just threw it too hard. Whatever, it happens. But then the first play of the next drive, so you're starting on 1st and 10, and this is where I think they got in the problems, is first play on the next drive, you have a false start, so you're already behind the chains on that drive. The drive after that, you have a 6-yard rush, so good start, ends up in a 3-and-out. The drive after that, you have Chuck's drop on the sideline, which, it's just a flat drop. He was open. I don't know if he was worrying about the safety coming over, trying to catch it and run before he caught it, whatever. Chuck's drop, 3-and-out. Next drive, 3-yard rush, 3-and-out. Next drive, 1-yard rush, 3-and-out. You get the roughing the kicker. So then you get
that was scary.
Then you get
Did you see the slow-mo replay on that?
Yeah.
It looked like he hit Fletcher being so thin. It looked like his leg snapped.
Oh, jeez.
Because it bent like it looked like a bow, from like a bow and arrow bow. Like, it was bad.
My favorite part about that was him shoving the guy who did actually rough him back onto
Oh,
the
yeah.
turf
Like,
after
well, like the refs are looking right at them. I'm like, don't do that. Like, he's like taunting the guy for roughing him with the ref standing right next to him. So then you get the reprieve there on the penalty, and then the very next play you have a 2-yard rush, and then I'm still not sure why they snapped the ball on the 4th down with 1 second left on the play clock. Like, just take the delay of game and punt it.
Yeah.
And then the drive after that starts with a 2-yard rush. So it was a lot of runs on 1st down, which they don't typically do. That to me says, like, let's try to run some clock. And I just, I know that you're not going to just throw it all over the place and go empty and hurry up, but like there has to be some level of balance between that and going into like a shell to protect a 28-point lead when there's still a ton of game time left.
Right.
So I thought that was maybe, and we have a comment. The TV shows Luke flat out, asking Ben, why did you hike that? Yeah. So clearly some miscommunication.
He brought that up. He brought that up in his press conference too. He said that he should have just not put them in that situation to even
put the punt team out there.
Run the punt team out.
Let if you want to delay.
Yep,
and
exactly. But he puts them out there, and there was that slight miscommunication, and then the ball gets snapped and just thrown away, and now you're handing the ball in better field position, and that even like. I mean, I know it's 7 plays because they got the reprieve from the roughing the punter, but that was 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm counting that as a 3 and out. 5, and then the next one. And then the next one they get I guess. Wait, no, there was a 7-play one in there where they did get a 1st down.
Yeah,
they snuck that in there but just. The protect, I refer to it as kind of like the prevent offense, and it's. I don't think it works anywhere. It's just not like if you're only getting a yard per carry on 1st down, 3 yards here, like you're not going to run sufficient time off the clock to be effective.
Right, and Matt says I think some of the intention behind running so much was stress the defense, and I do agree partly with that, but you also have to be cognizant of what the defense is doing and selling. Like, we'll get into this I'm about to get into like what Indiana did defensively that was a little different than what they typically do. And you have to also then see like, okay, they're doing something to sell out to stop the run. So let's not just bang our heads against the wall because we want to run the ball and we want to, run some clock and rest our defense. Like, you still have to play the game as it's being presented to you. And I just felt they kind of didn't do that, so to speak. Even with the very poor 3rd quarter and the bad 2nd half, I mean, the offense still 8.68 yards per dropback, which is 81st percentile. So that's still really good. 9% explosive play rate, which is 57%. All right. 5.83 yards per play. So even with the second, I mean, those numbers are obviously carried by the 1st half, but
right.
Everything else was kind of, less than average. Nothing truly, truly terrible. But what I noticed that Indiana did, and it's they kind of seem to be like overcorrecting week to week. Like, even in the Western Kentucky game last week, Tom Allen mentioned how like they were so worried about the pass that they gave up a bunch of runs. Well, now this week it feels like they were so worried about how Western ran on them.
Yeah.
Which is really weird to me because like you see through 3 games, the numbers tell you like they're aggressive. They want to go downfield. So why would you be hell-bent on stopping the run when that's not exactly what they're trying to kill you with? So they're usually a 4-2-5 team. They played a lot of 4-3, so extra linebacker. They also did a lot of bare front, which even on a 4-down lineman is just having one of the D tackles head up on the center. So they did that, and then especially in the second half after they got nuked giving by the pass, they went to a lot of 5-man front with 2 linebackers and played man, basically daring UC to throw.
UC wasn't throwing it.
And UC didn't. And so, the 5-man, so almost every snap I watched of at least the second half, because I was paying more attention to why the run game wasn't working then than in the first half, because the pass game dominated, was they had 7 guys in the box on almost every play. I mean, they brought in the extra big man right in the middle, had the 2 D tackles, had 2 edge guys that were ends/linebackers, so bigger body guys, and then 2 linebackers. And they were just saying, like, all right, if you want to keep throwing and spread us out, then we're gonna get blown out. But we think you're gonna try to run the ball and work on your run game. And that's why I kind of said, like, don't beat your head against a wall. If that's what they're gonna do, why are you gonna run into that? Like, you're not gonna be able to block it up enough. You don't have enough people.
I think that's what. I mean, that's going to be a learning point there for Gino and Luke and the team. Is like, hey, because they're gonna be in a lot of games here soon. I would like to think that are gonna be the 38-10 variety at halftime, and they're gonna have to just continue to be ultra aggressive. And even if maybe you don't put Trey Tucker out there, maybe it's like Drew Donnelly or somebody, like, if you want to go that route of, like, let's get some guys some experience and see what that works with, like, let's put some other guys out there and but stay with the same play style of being ultra aggressive, throwing the ball deep, doing that kind of thing, as opposed to let's let them stack the box and hand the ball off and get stonewalled 3 plays in a row and then punt it away.
In the run game itself felt more between the tackles than it had been in the previous 3 games. You saw one, like, quick pitch type reverse play to Trey. You didn't see any of the ones where they just kind of snap it and pitch it directly sideways to Chuck, and he just kind of tries to get what he can get around the corner.
Yeah.
You had the one middle screen, which was a great play, great move by Chuck on 3rd and long to get 26 yards, but you didn't have any exterior screens, kind of like the one that got called back against Arkansas. You didn't have any just quick flood pass. Like, there are ways to almost manufacture run type plays within the passing game that are basically extensions of the run game that they were just lacking yesterday for whatever reason. But at the same time, like, block better too. Like, I'm not gonna just say that Indiana did what they did, but you still need to block better.
Yeah.
Like, to have basically 30 runs for 40 yards, like, you got to no matter what the defense is trying to do, you do need to be better at blocking in the run game than they were yesterday, because they were pretty darn good pass blocking. So, we just got to be able to move some people a little bit better and create some creases a little bit better. And putting 5 guys on the down line and still having 2 linebackers, like, there's nobody to block those linebackers.
Yeah.
So if you can't get off of your block and get to the second level or however they draw it up, like, that's how they hold you to, a poor rushing day.
Yeah,
I would think there was a go ahead. No,
this is kind of a side note that, like, when they're down in the red zone, and really all over the field, I feel like they weren't incorporating, like, if you're going to do something like that where they're where you want to maybe not slow the game down, but not, like, slow your offense down on purpose by not throwing deep. Like, they didn't use Lenny Taylor and Josh Wiley very much. And then when you, at the very beginning of the game, you get the interception from Threats, he brings it back to the 6, and you get 3 points out of that.
Right.
Like, and obviously, like, I'm not in offensive meetings and I'm not in there and all that kind of stuff, but I feel like using your 2 NFL quality tight ends in the red zone might be a good option. For sure. And Matt kind of brings that up, why I didn't get many targets, and I agree. Yeah.
And that was kind of the interesting part, is, like, the one touchdown to Tyler Scott down the middle on 3rd and 1 was an absolutely awesome play call, play design, because Indiana did think that they were going to run. They had 2 tight ends in, Ben's under center.
Yep.
And they play action it and hit. I mean, just an absolute perfect ball. But like, that's kind of some of the things. Okay. Yeah. They're okay. So they got 5 guys on the line and they got 2 linebackers in. So they got 7 men in the box. Why don't you give them that look again and just use your tight ends more in the passing game? Like just 5-yard out, 7-yard out, something like that. Like they shouldn't have the guys to cover them because they think you're going to run. So Lenny sneaks out, Josh sneaks out, just little things that, feel like this team can grow on. But we say that at the same time, I'm like, well, they did score 45 and they did score 38 in the first half. And it was pretty much like, nonstop onslaught, especially in the second quarter. So it leaves you wanting more.
Yeah.
And which is a good thing. And I think it's just still like a learning process of who we are, who we want, how we want to attack teams. Now that we're 4 games in, how are teams going to try to defend us? And then how are we going to, combat that? And so, it's a growing process and a learning process. And I think that they will, they'll keep moving, but they cannot, like, there's not a defense they'll play. And Indiana's defense isn't great or anything, but like,
No.
I don't think there's a defense they play the rest of the year that can stop them.
Well, I mean, we kind of talked about that all the way back in week 1 after the Arkansas game, that like and obviously we, caveated that with the fact that it was week 1. So some of the things that we saw from some of these other teams that the Bearcats are going to play going forward, we weren't sure maybe those were bad games or off games or whatever. But I think 4 weeks into the season, you've kind of got a good idea of what all these other teams are. Right. And I'm sure that Aaron and Chad will really deep dive into the AAC tonight.
They can have that tonight, because yesterday was a pile of dog, that I have zero interest in talking about.
But like, back to the point of like, there's not going to be, there shouldn't be a situation where we lose a game because our offense got shut down by one of these defenses that we're running up against. I
mean, it'd be hard. I mean, you look at it, just take the Miami game, for example. I mean, you have 2 fumbles, an interception, what should have been. I mean, the offense did not do great at points in the Miami game, and they still scored, plenty of points to win. So it's hard to see, especially if they do lean more into just being kind of as aggressive as possible most of the time. Who the hell is covering Tyler Scott?
No
like
one.
That dude,
or Trey Tucker.
He's embarrassing guys. Like, they're playing off of him and still like have no shot. His third touchdown yesterday was just, I mean, he gets that spin so quick on that stop route, because the DB is flying up and he just spins away, and then that other, I don't know what the safety was doing. He may as well have just walked to the sideline. He gave no effort to try to tackle him. But I mean, like, how are you stopping that? How are you stopping? I mean, Nick Gardner had 2 catches for 2 yards. I don't even think Jaden Thompson had a catch. I mean, it was Tyler and Trey, and that was enough.
I mean, as long as that offensive line gives him the time. I mean, I saw somebody tweet, he had enough time back there to take a nap after he snapped the ball and then wake up, get his morning coffee and throw the pass. So as long as they keep that pocket like that, it gives the extra few steps that is needed, and those guys are wide open. And Ben's he's putting the ball right on the money on a lot of those. So you allow that to happen, and not if they're gonna stack the box, just open it up and let's see what we got.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to turn this into this. There's clearly not a there's nothing to the quarterbacks anymore. But
right.
I will say that in the second half, when it's just not working for whatever reason, whether the Indiana's playing good defense, they're stopping the run, we're not executing, and we're not maybe being as aggressive as we as fans would have liked to have seen. Like, I would not have been against a series for Evan just to see if it provided a spark, just to give them something different to look at, to say like, oh, you want to do this? You want to play 7 in the box? And if he gets outside, you got nobody over there to tackle him.
Right.
And I think it was mentioned maybe in the chat too that, if you're going to do that, if you're going to put Ben under center in that type of a situation, like, you're kind of telegraphing what you're going to do. Because we do not throw the ball
a lot
at all outside of the one touchdown pass.
Yeah.
Like, we don't throw the ball from under center. So if he's under center, it's going to be pretty obvious that it's a run.
Yeah.
And I just think they can vary it a little bit. And like I said, I would not have been against a Prater drive just to see if, and I know Luke doesn't want to, is not going to get in like a back and forth type thing, but the offense was stagnant. Like, if he gives you a jolt for a drive, even if it doesn't result in a touchdown, but it flips the field and it just gives them something else to look at, I would not have been against it. I'm not surprised he didn't do it, but it's something that just crossed my mind.
Yeah, I think Mo Egger even tweeted out, like, if there was ever a time for like a Prater package, now would be a good time to just run it out there and see what it can like shake up, and then and maybe they just don't. I mean, I'm sure they have like some thoughts on something like that, but
you also have to practice it, and if they're not necessarily practicing it, or if it's not in that week's game plan, they're not just going to all of a sudden like go, hey, let's do this real quick. Like, we haven't been working on that, and but just a thought, and we'll see how that progresses. I guess anything else from yesterday that caught your attention?
Oh no, it's Papa Bear over here. Just said it was thinking like the putting Prater in maybe on that 4th and 1 where they accidentally hiked it. I don't know that they thought that accidentally hiking it was a thing that might happen.
Right.
Or could have happened, but I could see if maybe it had gotten snapped to him that maybe he can run to the outside a little bit on something like that. I don't know if
I think it just, those things to me, I understand it, but like, and Indiana tried to do it and they had a false start and then had to pump it. Like, you're really telling the other team what you're trying to do. Now, you might still be able to get it because your guy's super athletic and only needs a yard, and he's their quarterback in that same vein is a former wide receiver, so he's a big athletic guy. Or he is a former quarterback that they moved to wide receiver and then would been
and then use.
But like, you're really telling the defense what you're doing there, and maybe it doesn't matter. But if they bring Evan in for one play the whole game, like, it's pretty obvious what he's not going to bootleg and throw it.
Although I think he could do that.
Well, yeah, I would do that, but I would bootleg a lot. I would try to move Ben a little bit more too. I just get outside the pocket a little bit for some throws. I did notice pregame that Will Pauling was dancing it up with his crutches, so maybe that's a good sign that he's getting close to returning
on the mend.
Yeah, Ryan Montgomery, did not dress. We thought maybe he would be back this week, so maybe it was just an extra week of precaution, and possibly see him back next week. Outside of that, I did not notice anything major besides Arquan. But again, I feel bad for that dude. I mean, his body, he's got a lot of stuff going on, and it's been going on for a while, and he plays physical, and it's taken a toll on him, but he always, he's a gamer, so I would not doubt for 1 second that he'll be out there next week if he can go. So
yeah, and that was probably another one of those situations where he gets hurt there. Obviously, what was that, like kind of the end of the first half?
Yeah.
And he came back out still in uniform, but it's like you're up 38-10. If it's like something that just got tweaked, that it's not necessary to put him back out there and make that tweak become a 2, 3, 4 week injury. Let's just go ahead and
I think
stand over here on the sideline. Let's give some of these young guys a shot out there, and
it would have been interesting. Would have been interesting if it was a closer game, if he would have tried to go. I mean, he seemed like he was limping pretty good, but to be in uniform all game and not even bother to go in and change or whatever makes me think that, hopefully good chance for him to be back out there. And it was mentioned earlier, Ben seemed to be favoring his right arm a little bit, and Chad had mentioned that, it was possibly from scab from a previous injury getting ripped back off or something.
He said that in the postgame presser. He said it was a cut from last week.
I did find it a little interesting though. Like one point in the second half, he on one of the 3 and outs when they're coming off the field to punt, he unbuttoned his chin strap with his left arm on both, like came across and wouldn't even raise his right arm up to undo the chin strap.
On the broadcast, I guess he kept rubbing his arm too.
Yeah. Probably reading too much into it, but whatever. If he was that hurt, they wouldn't have kept putting him out there.
He insisted he'd be fine. So
how do we think JQ did? I thought JQ played pretty well. Nothing jumped out. Indiana just doesn't have speed on the outside. They did not. I mean, try to see what their longest pass was, and I think
20 yards.
But I think I read something last night, just kind of reading from their side of things, that of Bazelak's 280, 120 was after the catch. So, I mean, they just did not push air yards at all. We talk about air yards. I talked about air yards last week. To me, that's the true test of are you aggressive? Are you pushing the ball down the field? It's one thing to throw a screen pass where a guy then runs it 40 yards. Okay, great. I mean, that's good too. You need that, but that's not indicative of a passing game that is aggressive. So, the broadcast was this one from I was laughing at in the second half. Kirk Morrison just kept calling Kiner Shivers.
Yeah. I thought for a second maybe
the Beth Mowens, Kirk Morrison group. You kind of get what you get.
Yeah, there was not a lot of good insight coming from the broadcast.
No, it was. But as the UC Twitter account threw up, we've thoroughly dominated the state of Indiana. In our contract games, our home and homes, and our bye games. So similar to how we are now the University of Cincinnati, Los Angeles, for our 4-0 work of the Bruins, we now own the state of Indiana as well, which is not saying much. I mean, it's basically like a garbage can in Middle America, but so. Glad to get another win. Glad to keep the momentum going.
I mean, then the other thing I want to bring up is before this game, and this is just only related to them coming here to Nippert, was there was zero respect for what Nippert is and the environment that is created by the fans, especially as of
Buddy
late.
That said it'd be no big deal to play in front of 40,000 because they played in front of much bigger crowds. Yeah, well, they don't do good against those crowds, so
right. So he said that, and then after the game, people were obviously calling him out, hey, and he was what I said was it wouldn't be the most intimidating place because they go and play in front of 100,000 fans, at the Big House and up at OSU and at Penn State they play in front of more than double the fans. So I said it wouldn't be the most intimidating. And
that's not what he said to begin with. It wasn't. Right. I mean, I'm pretty sure what he said to begin with was they shouldn't have a problem with it. It'll be loud, but they shouldn't have a problem because they've played in similar environments before. They clearly had a problem in the first half. Like,
Oh, yeah.
let's be real. It was an onslaught in the second quarter, and they did not handle it well.
No. And the fans were, again, fantastic. And there was also, was it Wetzel said, like, oh, UC doesn't sell out ever, so
Yeah.
this is a weekend where UC is going to sell out. Like, almost kind of saying, like, oh, like, there's no real UC fan base, and the only reason they're selling out is because it's a Big Ten opponent coming in.
I think I saw that tweet earlier this week where he was like lumping them in with some other schools that don't typically have sellouts or whatever. I think that one was just an oversight on him.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm partial to. I think Dan's a really, really funny guy, and I agree with a lot of the stuff he says. I didn't take that as like a shot. I mean, yes, we've had more sellouts than those other teams, obviously, like Kansas and teams like that. But good morning, Lambig. Were you nursing something? You're a little late today. we count on our regulars, but no, I mean the Bearcats, like, I guess that's the fun yet frustrating part is you see what they can do, especially in the second quarter, and then Ivan played 106 snaps. Just, I mean. And
he was ever so chipper in the post game press conference, like he could go out and play another 106.
I mean, I guess if I played that well, I'd want to keep going.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I did not know Lambig was all the way out on the West Coast, so I will definitely cut you some slack. I very much appreciate you getting up this early to listen to us two morons talk about a football game. But on to Tulsa, and Chad and I will break that down more Wednesday night. They probably, outside of UC, they might have had the best performance in the league yesterday in a loss to Ole Miss. Now, their starting quarterback did get hurt and did not finish the game, Davis Brin. So that'll be something to monitor. Apparently pretty bad ankle injury. Not sure what that means for next week, but backup came in for a lot of the game, so we'll definitely be checking that out. This is definitely comedy, Marcus, considering what Rutgers did yesterday. Couldn't even get me the damn under against Iowa, 34 points. I played it. Bastards went over.
But yeah, was it a late touchdown bad beat on that?
I don't even know. No, it was like a slow bleed. Iowa actually had a functioning offense for a couple drives. Of course, had a defensive touchdown in the first half. It's like, Rutgers had a backup quarterback and Iowa hates offense. I was like, I don't care what the number is. I'm taking the under. And it went just over.
Yeah.
But so we move on and we start the final season of American Athletic Conference play.
Good.
Man, am I excited.
I know. I'm very excited because
Sam says he wants to hear our takes on the AAC performance. Sam, I don't really want to give them. I'm sorry to hurt you, but I'll give you one nugget that the Central Florida Golden Knights beat an absolutely decrepit corpse of a body Georgia Tech with one offensive touchdown. So, John Rice Plumlee, he ain't it.
And also, Houston was able to beat a grain.
I'll leave Dana's comments to Aaron and Chad because there has not been a coach that is less self-aware than he is right now.
Look at Aaron. There's Aaron. Look how excited he is for the AAC recap tonight.
If you guys that are listening or will listen have not seen Dana's comments after that one, please go find them. I actually love them. Like, they're so ridiculous. They're hilarious.
Like a bad comedy sketch.
Just will not take. Oh yeah, don't forget Navy's huge win against ECU. Yeah, that's another one. Oh my, Tulane after beating Kansas State, loses to Southern Miss. Like, I mean, it's just USF after playing Florida great, just gets absolutely demolished by Louisville. I mean, it's so bad.
It was
bad.
It was an odd week. It was kind of odd. Like, raise your hand in the chat over here if you had Kent State playing the best game against Georgia all year so far.
I think that's like sneaky smart on Kent State's part is that they play have you seen their non-conference schedule?
No.
So they started the year at Washington.
Okay. I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, so read that off real quick.
Washington 45-20 loss. Number 7 Oklahoma 33-3 loss. And then they played Long Island. And that was a win 63-10, and then now Georgia 39-22.
So you just are like, we hate our players so much. We love money and hate our players so much that we're going to make them play Washington, Oklahoma, and Georgia.
In the first 4 games.
But at the same time, like, I really like their coach, Sean Lewis. So is it like partly smart of them to do this so that they accumulate these losses and maybe other schools don't want him because they think that they're not good, even though they are?
And it sets them up. I mean, look, then they go into conference play and they're, likely, they're not going to obviously see another team that is anywhere near the caliber of the first 3 that they played there. Like, no,
I mean, them putting up 22 on Georgia, I can't wait to see how many SEC teams don't put up 22 on Georgia.
Well, I want to say that's the
South Carolina.
Okay, so Samford held them to 33 points, but they didn't score at all. Oregon only scored 3 points,
right?
And they're ranked in the top 15. And then South Carolina put up 7 points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and I think obviously Georgia had some issues going on. I think they had a couple turnovers and whatnot at the beginning of the game that assisted in that. But you know what? You don't just you still have to capitalize on those. And I would like to give Kent State credit for only losing by 17.
So when do we talk about my fantastic Tennessee Volunteers? We want to talk about that now?
I mean, we can go to that game, and my sister-in-law went there, and so my brother-in-law said my phone gets blown up all day.
We are
with
going
Rocky
to be
Top.
so annoying if we become good. Like, everyone is going to hate us. I mean, we're going to get probably killed by Alabama, maybe probably killed by Georgia, but everybody is just they might have burned Knoxville down last night. I have sources, saying that the town is barely standing.
Well, let's jump to that game. Go ahead. Let's go to that game.
I didn't see a minute. This is the one thing that drives me that I don't like is that it seems like every UT game that I want to watch is at the same time of a UC game.
Yeah.
So I didn't see a single down.
I didn't see a lot of it. I did see some stats that's the most points that Tennessee's or ties the most points Tennessee has scored against Florida in the last 30 years.
Oh yeah, it hasn't been great.
Florida has now lost to Kentucky and Tennessee this year for the first time in, I don't know.
Yeah, that's more of a Kentucky thing than a Tennessee thing.
Right. I get that, but
Kentucky has beat them 3 out of the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's really a shame to see Florida go to 2-2 and 0-2 in the SEC with the front-running Heisman candidate at quarterback.
Yes, he did throw a touchdown pass finally, though.
2.
Oh, 2? Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe he's back on the Heisman watch. I mean, he did have a big game. He was
24 44 for 453 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, they almost coughed it up at the end, giving up an onside kick. But UT did all that offensively without their best wide receiver, too. So, but just an awesome environment. I mean, my buddy that was at the game was saying there's a funny Twitter page, whatever, called Feels Like 98. And so, we always just make jokes that it's it's starting to feel like 98, but no, good to see the Vols take down the Jorts and Crocs crew. Who?
I didn't realize. I did not realize that you were such a big UT fan.
Oh, I went there.
Oh, I did. See, I didn't even know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
Oh yeah.
No.
I
Nobody
mean,
told me that until yesterday. I start seeing you tweeting out all these crazy things, and
I'm
I was
a
like,
ball, man.
like with Pat McAfee singing "It's a Great Day to Be a Ball."
yeah.
And like at first I thought you were mocking him, and then I realized you're
No.
not, and I was like, all right, well now I got another Tennessee fan that's gonna be blowing me up with all the exploits of
I'm trying
the
to
volunteers.
get down to the Kentucky game Halloween weekend. So we'll see what happens there.
Right.
Yes, Marcus asked if I have reconciled UT being good and having Josh Heupel as their coach. I can't believe he's having success. Think he stinks. This is what's happening, Marcus. Josh Heupel is a bridge coach. Now, he can be a great bridge coach, but I cannot imagine that he's ever going to beat Alabama, beat Georgia. And even though we're all very happy of what they're doing, there is a large section of the fan base that will not be happy if they don't start beating those teams. And we'll run him out just like we run out every other, coach that's been down there. But his job and Danny White's job, the AD who came over from UCF, was to clean up one of the biggest dumpster fire athletic departments that anyone has seen over the last 25 years. And they have done that. They are adults. They are running a functioning athletic department and a functioning football program. And however they build it and the wins that come from it will be great. But eventually he will get fired too. But it'll be much easier to hire a new coach when that happens, given that things are just frankly normal. Like it's just a normal situation. It's not an Auburn situation or
an Arizona State situation.
Right. So we will take our wins, and if he turns out to be a great coach, then I'll be all for it. But we needed someone to just be an adult for a minute. And we're doing a pretty good job of adulting. And I'll take that given what the Jeremy Pruitt era was and the Derek Dooley era and the Butch Jones era and So I was I don't know. Chuck and I Chuck might have me beat if he comes back for, if he's still got another year or, gets a medical or whatever, he might have me beat. So that might not last long. Let's see. What else do we got in the chat? Yeah, this was the one that cracked me up, was Dana basically saying, this is the same stuff that has kept going on, and I'm tired of it, and I'm not taking responsibility for it. Oh, okay, coach. Well, who is?
He's like, it's so irritating. It's gotten to the point where it's irritating. It's like, great. Wonderful.
Yeah, so, well, someone's got to take responsibility for it, coach, and you're the one making $5 million a year, right. So it should probably be you.
When you have the HC next to your name, I think all the responsibility falls at your feet. Sorry. And we had Miami.
What the hell happened?
The U.
MTSU is it's a dead program. They don't give a shit.
Middle Tennessee. They have an interesting indoor track there that I ran on one time in college. So
they gave up a 98-yard touchdown pass. Miami did.
Well, MTSU's quarterback was 16 for 25 for 408 yards and 3 touchdowns.
That is pushing the ball down the field.
So, their running back had 19 carries, 74 yards and a touchdown, and they had a receiver have 2 receptions for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I think he had a 98-yarder and a 70-something yarder.
Let me pull up the box score real quick on it.
But
yes,
this is the wildness of college football. Everybody's big on Miami, then they go to A&M and have no semblance of an offense whatsoever, and then you turn around and lose to a comatose MTSU program that
Chase Cunningham, the quarterback.
Like, I only know a little bit about them because of them being in Nashville and in Murfreesboro, and then like me being not a Nashville person, but like a lot of my friends are in Nashville, and like they're not even like. Do you think there's MAC programs that are like behind the times? Like MTSU is not trying to be like a 2022 competitive football program.
Hey, they are 3-1.
Okay.
Here's their receiving stats. So DJ England Chisholm had 2 receptions, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns. His long reception, 98 yards. Jalen Lane, 4 receptions, 130 yards. His long was 89 yards, no touchdowns. Elijah Metcalf,
89-yarder and didn't score?
Correct. Elijah Metcalf had 1 reception for 69 yards and 1 touchdown.
Oh my! And there's a 77-yarder. That other guy, the guy that had the 2 catches.
Yeah.
So they gave up a 98-yard pass, an 89-yard pass, a 77-yard pass,
and a 69-yard pass.
Oh my God!
Like they were their entire receiving core. They were averaging 25.5 yards per pass.
This is a totally another discussion, but like, if you're gonna sit here today after 4 weeks and tell me UC is not a top 25 team, then I just don't know like what sport you're watching.
Well, then, if you want to talk about teams that got votes over UC and who they played this week, we can go over here and look at
Hook'em.
Okay, look at that. But
horns down.
App State loses to James Madison.
Oh, they lost?
Yeah. Yes, they lost. It was, I think it was a like 30, 38 or 32 to 26, something like that.
Oh my God.
So, it was 32 to 28. That's what it was. James Madison scored 15 points in the fourth quarter.
So they have 2 losses now. Like, tell me, BYU cannot get the New Year's 6 game. Like, that's just doesn't matter how high they get. They are playoff or Holiday Bowl, I think, or whatever.
And they beat Wyoming yesterday, 38-24.
But they lost. I mean, they already have a loss. So
yeah, and so they've dropped down to 19, but they'll probably obviously stick up there.
Texas's big thing this year is a close loss to Alabama. Like they were ranked because they almost beat Alabama, and then they turn around and lose to Texas Tech.
Yeah, horns down.
So good job ranking them.
Right. And then also, good job ranking Miami, who gets beat by Middle Tennessee State.
Right.
So
let's see how many. So what other games? The first half of the Ohio State game was a no contest.
Yeah.
They blitzed, which is not surprising.
Maryland. Michigan struggled a little bit there with Maryland.
Well, Michigan took the Bengals approach to the preseason and scheduled dreadful Colorado State, who got blown out by Sacramento State yesterday, Hawaii, and Connecticut as their non-conference game. And we saw yesterday, like, you probably should have played someone a little bit better because Maryland, is pretty good, but gave them a game.
Yeah, 34-27. Michigan ekes it out. You have Clemson, Wake Forest, final in 2 overtimes. Clemson won that 51-45. Kansas State beat Oklahoma 41-34.
I was big on Kansas State coming into the year.
They got Martinez as their quarterback?
Yeah, Taylor Martinez and Deuce Vaughn's this tiny, awesome running back. And then they just shit the bed against Tulane, score 10 points, and then come back and win at Oklahoma. Like, try to figure this stuff out, man. Like none of it makes sense. I'm trying to see here if there's any. Baylor wins at Iowa State.
Texas A&M beat Arkansas.
Did you see the end of the Oregon game?
I saw that they scored 22 points in the final 2 minutes and 49 seconds.
Yeah, that was wild.
29 points total in the fourth quarter, and 22 of them came in the last 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, so there's 2 minutes left. They are down. What are they down? They're down.
Well, they scored
They
What,
throw a
22
50-yard
there, so-
touchdown pass, get a 2-point conversion to cut it to 3. On the very next play, pick 6 to go up 10, and then blow the cover by giving up a touchdown in a minute to Washington State, coming right back, and then end up winning by 3. So the Bo Nix experience was in full bloom yesterday. Arkansas. Let's talk about Arkansas just pissing away a win, fumbling on the goal line, return for a touchdown, 98 yards or whatever. And then I don't think I've ever seen a kicker hit the top of the goalpost for the win. Ball hit the top of the goalpost.
Yeah, it came down on the top of it.
Landed on the top of it and then somehow bounced back like into field of play. So it was no good.
I mean, was it Co had that kick against, was it Arkansas that like smashed off the upright?
Yeah. I mean, this thing landed
And
like literally hit
pretty high up.
the very top of it.
That should be extra points.
Someone's actually said that before on Twitter. Like if you
drop the ball right
football, if you hit the very top of it, you should get double points.
I mean, that's unfortunate for them. The Auburn Missouri game, I know that's what it is there, but
yeah, that did not save Brian Harson's job. Auburn or Missouri missing a 26-yard field goal to win at the end.
Yeah, so you missed that. Then Auburn, comes down and kicks a field goal, and then Missouri has a chance to win it, and the running back drops the ball on like the half-yard line as he's extending it out to score. He just he's running, and he could have just held the ball and gotten in, but instead he tries to do he wants to kind of flick it in the air and drops it on like the half-yard line there.
Oh my God. I did not see that. Sam brings up an interesting point. Is the Big Ten good? Ohio State's obviously good. Michigan, I guess, is good. I think Penn State is good. Other than those three, like, are we as in Michigan State, are we regretting giving Mel Tucker $1 gazillion?
I mean, I wanted to look into his contract to see like what kind of like safety nets they built into it.
There are none.
But I don't think there are any. Like they were somebody said like they were so like hell bent on proving to the world that he was their guy.
They were so worried about him going to
snub.
They were so worried about him going to LSU, even though LSU had no interest in him.
Right. So then they dropped a bag on his front porch, and now he's
$95 million.
Yeah,
and they're just like 2 weeks in a row against competent FBS teams, Washington and Minnesota. They're not even competitive.
What was the score yesterday?
27-0, I think.
It was 34-7 was the final score. So is it time to row the boat again in Minnesota?
I don't know, man.
4-0, 1-0 in the Big Ten now over whatever Michigan State wants to call themselves.
I mean, talking about second best conferences, I mean, the Big 12 doesn't have anybody at the top that can compare to like an Ohio State. But top to bottom, I think the Big 12 is the second best conference. Now, I'm sure there's some analytics out there that will tell us what that is, but it's not the ACC. It's not the Pac-12, obviously not the American. So either it's the Big 10 or the Big 12, I would think.
The American. It's not their responsibility to be the best in the country, Dave.
Well, let's try not to be the worst.
Yeah,
you know,
right,
can we do that?
No, they're not really. I mean,
anybody else jump out before we head over and wrap this up with some Bearcats in the NFL and I don't really want to talk. I don't really want to talk about the Bengals, so we don't have to talk about that.
Don't have to.
Craptastic start.
Hey, there was a huge undefeated matchup
on the basketball court.
Yeah, Duke and Kansas.
Kansas, baby.
Kansas is 4-0.
They're in first place in the Big 12, aren't they?
I believe so. Yes.
Because they beat West Virginia. They're 1-0 and 4-0, so they're probably in first place. Kansas.
All
I guess
conferences.
Kansas
Big 12. Kansas Jayhawks 1-0. Followed by the 1-0 Baylor Bears and Kansas State and Texas Tech. And then Oklahoma State hasn't played anybody in the Big 12 yet. Neither has TCU. And Iowa State, Oklahoma, Texas, and West Virginia are all 0-1. So
makes sense.
There you go.
But a typical Saturday in college football where teams that everybody thinks are good loses, and it's just rinse. It's just like every week is just subbing out a group of teams for another group that who are we going to say is good this week that then turns around and loses to someone that we think is not good.
I don't know, that Miami MTSU game is still just like blowing, like, because I didn't look at the stats, I just saw they lost. I'm like, oh, that sucks. But then you look at it and you see you've got like
you're giving up that to MTSU's passing attack. Like, what is does Miami play Wake Forest?
Stand by. Looks like they do not play them.
Oh, that would have been a good one because Sam Hartman might throw for 700 yards against them if MTSU is doing that.
And then our buddy Marcus Freeman got another win.
Nice.
So they beat North Carolina.
It's a pretty good win. They beat him pretty handily too.
45-32.
It was it's nice to see after Marshall has now lost to Bowling Green and somebody else this week after beating Notre Dame. So that's not a good look for the Irish that losing to Marshall and then them turning around and going 0 for 2.
Well, it looks like and offensively, I mean, Drew Pine was 24 for 34, 289 yards and 3 touchdowns. It doesn't look like any interceptions. And their running back had 17 carries for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. Michael Mayer had 7 receptions, 88 yards, and a touchdown. So,
getting it going in South Bend. Oh. All right, so let's switch over, wrap things up with some Bearcats in the pros.
Week 2.
Anybody throw up some good numbers?
I went through some things. It looks like Jerome Ford is returning kicks for the Browns.
Jerome Ford was at the game yesterday.
Yeah. So he had 2. It looks like he had 2 kick returns for 67 yards with a long of 44.
Nice.
Derek Forrest had 10 tackles, led the team.
He's been the headliner for the Bearcats in the pros.
Yeah.
So far.
Kobe had 5 tackles, 4 solo. Sauce had 6 tackles, 5 solo. Travis Kelce was 5 receptions, 51 yards on 7 targets, no touchdowns. And Brian Cook had a tackle in that game.
We got the big Sauce Gardner, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins matchup today. I'm excited to see how that goes. If the Bengals offensive line can block for long enough
that it's a thing.
Joe to actually throw the ball towards Jamar.
But the thing is, like, if they just move Jamar around, like, they could still just not go at Sauce. And it did.
Yeah, I mean he's going to play a lot. I'm imagining he'll play a lot in the slot, and we'll see what kind of offense the Zach Taylor can muster up today. I mean, if you drop this one, you're in full blown 5-alarm fire. Like, it's not good. It's not a Super Bowl hangover. It's like, do we need to make some real ass? I mean, I know people have talked about Zach not calling plays for a while, and I'm not totally against that. I think he's a really good coach. I think he's a good head coach. I think he understands, for the most part, the players really like him. But it might be time for Brian Callahan to start calling the plays. But
good thing is the rest of the AFC North hasn't exactly lit the world on fire. So you win this one, kind of move yourself back. I mean, the Browns just beat the Steelers, so you got that. I don't know who the Ravens play today.
Ravens play the Patriots.
Okay, so I mean, theoretically, after today, if the Bengals win and the Ravens drop theirs, you're looking at being 1-2 and tied with everyone but the Browns. So and I don't think the Browns are actually that good.
It'd be interesting if the Browns keep playing all right. What happens when Watson comes back? Are people even like more angry at him, more against him?
Yeah.
I'm looking up something really quick here. I wanted to see Colts last week.
I think Alec Pierce was out.
He was out last week too.
I think he was out with the
or he was out with the concussion, right?
Concussion last week. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to play this week.
Well, I don't know if he made a difference in their 24-0 loss to the Jags. Oh my God!
Right? Yeah, not good.
So hopefully he comes back this week, get some action, get some catches. But obviously the big one is Derek Forrest building on 2 really, really good games to start the year and seeing what Sauce does against the Bengals wide receivers. And
Washington plays the Eagles this week. So
what's that? I'm sorry.
Washington plays the Eagles this week. So
Eagles have a good offense, so that'll be a good test.
Yep. There was one thing I wanted to touch on, and now it seems to have slipped my mind. And it was a reference to Bengals. Oh well, I'll tweet it out if I remember it.
Sounds good, but Falcons 0-2 against Seattle. So I don't think we're quite to the Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota has not been the reason they're losing these games. So it's not like I don't think we're really close to seeing Dez unless he were to get hurt. But if and when the losses continue to pile up, we could be getting closer and closer to Dez getting some action. So, but other than that, I think that about wraps it up.
Yep.
Thanks again for everybody coming on this morning, talking about another Bearcats win as they take down Indiana 45. Here we'll jump in here real quick. Yeah, Majay's been an inactive, healthy scratch. Not a huge surprise. Probably just the that odd man out from a rush standpoint for the Cardinals. They had a wild one last week, wild comeback win. So, but we will be back obviously again next week to recap the game at Tulsa. That is, I believe, a 7:00 kick on ESPNU. So
God.
I'm sure the 4,700 people in attendance will be excited for the last Bearcat trip, I imagine, to the great Tulsa Golden Hurricane Stadium. Natalie, yes, the brunch is the same time every week, 9:30 to 11. We try to keep it in that world. Please rate us, subscribe, leave comments on the YouTube, comments on the iTunes, follow Jeff and myself on Twitter, follow Bearcat Journal on Twitter, follow all our guys, Chad, Aaron, Brent, the PTP guys, the new guys, the Rock of Truth podcast joined our network Thursday with the former players. That's going to be a lot of fun to listen to, get their perspective. But we are trying to give you guys a little something different every day in this new world of podcasts and live streams and being able to interact with everybody. So again, big thanks to Royal Link Golf Tours as our sponsor for the brunch. And if you missed it at the very beginning, we will have former quarterback Hayden Moore as a special guest after the homecoming game on the October 9th episode. So with that, I thank everybody. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, executive producer Aaron Smith. Thank you, Bearcat fans, and have an enjoyable Sunday. And we will see you back again next week on the Bearcat Brunch.